here we go again, guys. Back with the NRRRL wrap. We've had a break over the long weekend. I'll tell you now, me and Les really deserve that break. Trust me. And I think it's probably the first time since we started the podcast, mate, that, and I know Harrow probably, we'll mention Harrow in a minute, but I know he'd know what I'm saying here. Our wives and families really appreciated us
I'm in the good
on that
books
long weekend, mate.
Long weekend, took the kids.
Yeah,
away. I'm in the good books. Now.
Yeah. So that'll get us another minimum 10 weeks. 10 weeks. 10 weeks in the NRRRL competition and talking to this wonderful audience. And mate, what a night tonight we got planned. I think most of our viewers could probably see one of our special guests tonight. Some people would know him, but some people probably don't. And tonight's a night where I'm not rubbing my hands, Harrow, because we're going to get down and dirty. But I think this is good. This is a great opportunity. I don't think this happens very much anywhere in any other competition where people like yourself, mate, come onto a thing like a podcast or a talkback show and gets to share a little bit about who they are and more importantly, their skin in the game. And without people like yourself, mate, and I'm going to introduce you very shortly, we don't have the competition that we do, particularly in the NRRRL, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I've done this for the last 2 weeks, which I think is the best competition in New South Wales country, by the way. So there's one for you. Look, tonight, guys and viewers, we've got a very special guest coming in, and we're going to go straight into our segment of special guests interviews. We've been doing great. We've had Cody Walker, we've had Roy Bell. We've had young Jack. We've had Jesse Perry from Ballina. We've had young Jack, one of our up-and-coming referees in the NRRRL competition. And tonight, mate,
the main man
this is a big night for the podcast, but I think it's a big night for the viewers and a big night for the NRRRL competition. We've proudly going to welcome Mark Harrison. For those people that don't know Mark is the president of the NRRRL competition. Welcome, Mark. How are you, mate?
Yeah, real good, guys. Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity. Yeah.
Nah, mate. Look, thank you. Mate, we go out on a limb, me and Big Fox, and we try and get as many. I think influential. There you go, mate. There's a word. There's our word for the night. I always get a word for the night, Harrow, and tonight's influential. So we like to get the most influential people with skin in the game, particularly here in the NRRRL. And mate. Thank you, mate. Thank you really for taking the time out. And I think, just to get you here tonight isn't just about talking about the NRRRL and talking about, what you do in your role. We'll get to that. But I think it's a good opportunity for people in the game and not just players and clubs and officials, but those people who pay through the gate week in, week out to come watch a great weekend of footy, whichever club they support, to get to know the president of a competition, mate. Tonight's going to be really special for us because it's like having Andrew. You're our version of Andrew Abdo. You got a better name.
That's big.
But, mate, well, I'm calling it. You're the Andrew Abdo of the NRRRL, mate. You're the leader of our competition. And I think, mate, to be totally honest, I know you cop a fair few knocks along the way, but I'm going to give you a rap, mate, because as I said, I'm not going to go backwards and coming forwards. The NRRRL competition is the prestige competition in New South Wales country, and I think New South Wales Rugby League need to really take their eyes and blinkers off and have a look at what's happening in this competition because it's great. So, mate, we're going to get to know you tonight, and we want to know a little bit about not just you as a president, as I said, but we want to get to know who Mark Harrison is, and what you bring to the game, and your time in this game as well, and more importantly, the voluntary time you're also given to the game, and in your special role as president of the NRRRL competition, mate. So I'm going to hand over to Big Foxy, and he's going to kick us off, mate, and on the Get to Know Harrow. There you go.
Harrow. Here we go.
There you go. Let's do it.
All right, let's kick it off. So, mate, who is the man behind the president of the NRRRL competition? Who is Mark Harrison? Can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. It's probably funny you say Harrow and Mark Harrison. So I think a lot of people know me as Harrow, but have no idea what I am, what I do, who I am, what my background is.
Exactly.
So, yeah, happy to share. I'm married to a wonderful wife, Kerry. Almost 10 years in February next year. Between us, we've got a son each. My son Kyle is 30. Kerry's son Jack is 24, and he's got a daughter, so it makes me a grandfather as well.
Welcome to that club, brother.
Yeah. Little Amalia, she was they're living in Western Australia at the moment, so it's a bit hard to sort of catch up with them. But that's it in a nutshell. I run my own business as a mortgage broker. Been doing that for 10 years, but really been in finance and the banking game since I left Tweed River High School a long time ago.
Mate, off the record, I'm not going to cut you off, but after this podcast, mate, we need to have a different discussion, but it's about mortgages, mate. I'll tell you, economic downturns.
I left the same time as Al Kepnich.
Okay. Al Kepnich. What a name. There you go. Hey, you just brought up something for me, mate. I've had the pleasure of playing football with Kepo, but I'll leave it at that. He was a very interesting character.
He certainly is. Yeah. Shane Morris is another one, actually.
Mate, you know the best. You actually know the best of them. I've played footy with both those guys in rep side, so mate, they're good blokes, those guys. And mate, growing up on the Tweed, mate, just hearing that little bit about you, obviously that insight into your family and that, and being a Tweed boy, mate, like, what's your history in that Tweed region?
Well, it actually only started pretty late for me. I was 15, I think, when I moved here. My old man was in the banking game as well, so we moved all over New South Wales with Bank of New South Wales and then Westpac. Spent time in the bush around Delungra, out in Inverell.
Wonderful little place.
Yes, yeah. Walker.
Mate, very cold right now, Walker.
Very cold.
You'd know that.
Tamworth been up here. I was about this big, I think, when I lived in Mossvale, long time ago. Yeah. So I've been around the bush quite a bit, but ended up back in Tweed, and I think I finished high school in '86 at Tweed River High.
Mate, that would have been, with a couple of blokes that you just mentioned, that would have been a tough little gig in Tweed River High School with those blokes and you. Mate,
Really was.
It's interesting to hear that you obviously well travelled, both in those areas that you mentioned, now famously known as the Group 19 and Group 4 areas in Tamworth and Walker and, out there in the old coal country, particularly this time of the year, as you know. Mate, that being said, your journey outside of, what you've already told us about your life and a little bit of an insight into who the man is behind the president, what's your skin in the game, mate? What's your journey? Well, I'm really interested to find out, and I have no doubt, people in other clubs and more importantly, those supporters that are out there that know you as Harrow. What's your skin in the game? What's your journey? What's that journey of rugby league life been like for you, mate?
It's been fairly mixed, but it's a bloody long story, I'll tell you. Started playing when I was about 4 years of age for Engadine Dragons. So originally, I suppose they can call me a shy boy, but I left there pretty quickly.
Goffy's punching the air, but you just heard the word Dragons. But mate, I've got another word for Goffy, and I'll leave it till the end. It's called. I'll actually just say it's called Ben Hunt. Anyway, we'll get to that later.
I'll never say Tigers.
Sorry for cutting you off, mate. Go on, mate. Keep going.
Yeah. So as I said before, I moved over to New South Wales with Dad and his work, and played plenty of footy in a lot of small local communities and larger communities, so I know what it's all about to have a one-team town type thing.
Yeah.
I was privileged enough too, I suppose, at Walker. It was a pretty good time. My maths teacher, her husband, was the captain coach of the first grade side, so I was the number one ball boy. So I was looking forward to picking up the aluminium cans after the game and getting a free pie. So
especially at Walker, mate. That would have been great. It would have been hot pie too.
Oh yeah, it was certainly a hot pie. But then I ended up back here with Dad, 84, 83, somewhere around there, and ended up playing at Bilamble. There's a few mates at Tweed River that played out there, and I tried to go to the Seagulls initially, Billy Dunn, Michael Searle, but I thought, I'll go to Bilamble and have a bash with the boys, you know.
Yep.
But then I realised that at 19, my game time was over. I had a fairly horrific injury at Volker. So I wasn't going to play anymore, so I gave the game away and then got introduced to the coaching side of things with a few people, and actually Wombat was one of those people as well, Graham Eady.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he coached out at Bilamble there, whatever year it was, I can't remember. And he took me under his wing and sort of wanted me to be his team manager. And that was back in the time when, was it the Tweed Seagulls that played in the ARL?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
At that stage, yeah. Wombat asked me to go along with him and help out when he got the reserve grade gig, which would have been a fantastic opportunity for me. But me working in the bank at the time as well, I got transferred from Tweed Heads to Moolameen, which is out in the back of Hay.
I was actually just about to ask you, where's that? I've never heard of it before.
Town of 500 people with 2 pubs, a bowling club and a 6-month golf course.
That's all you need.
That's all you need, mate.
Plenty of drinking holes. And we played golf, yeah. But unfortunately that town was full of AFL or Aussie rules. So I still enjoyed my time there, obviously, with what I did, and ended up starting a touch football comp just to get the proper ball in the town.
Good job.
Well done, mate. Great stuff. You'll be remembered for that, trust me.
Yeah. I introduced the schooner glass to the local pub as well. I couldn't hold the little middies or pots, as they call them, and mate, you've got to get these schooners in, I'll guarantee you make more money. And I was the 2IC at the Westpac branch.
Mate, you know what? You're a visionary. You know how much a schooner is these days?
Your photo should be on the wall.
Mate, it's $10 a schooner. There you go, mate. You missed that boat. But anyway, continue on, brother.
Yeah. So I left there and headed down the south coast again with Westpac, and spent some time in the Group 16 area, Narooma, Rimbula. Kept coaching down there. Actually, before then too, I ended up starting a coaching gig under 8s at Bellingen. I was down there for 2 seasons as well at Bello.
Yeah.
Been around.
You've been, mate, I'm just about to say you've been around.
Yeah. So I ended up back here in about 95, I think it was, and then got in touch with Gavin Judd at the time. Gavin and I got on well when I was here at school and playing at Bilamble. He was then a senior player, and I knew he was involved with the ARL development at that stage.
Yeah, he was actually.
Juddy so I got in touch with Gav. Still actually waiting for him to return an email I sent him, but anyway, that's another story.
Well, hopefully Juddy's watching. This is the best podcast in the world, Juddy.
Worldwide,
mate. Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It ended up at Bilamble. I got asked to sort of go out there and have a few beers and talk to the coaching staff and the committee, and ended up coaching there at under 14s the first year.
Yep.
Shannon Murphy was one of those young kids.
Murph.
Back then, yeah, young Murph. A few other blokes that are with him. Michael Ford, of all people.
Mate.
Is that a privilege?
Bring him out now.
Is that a privilege to coach Michael Ford?
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting is all I'll say.
Yeah. So I think back then I ended up as the vice president of the Bilamble Juniors at that time. And then I can't remember the years, 2006 maybe. I accepted a caretaker role as treasurer of Group 18 Junior League, and 20 years later retired. Yeah, so I ended up doing a caretaker role for 20 years, so that wasn't really good.
Good stretch.
Mate, I think a person with your financial background would have came pretty handy in a position like that.
Yeah,
I think you would have become the king of caretaker, treasurers. Because I don't think there'd be too many caretaker treasurers with a history of banking and whatnot behind them. But mate, it's an interesting journey. Just hearing what you said, like from your, clubland as a player, your skin in the game, then as a coach, and mate, having the, I would say, privilege of having someone like Graham Eady and to be mentored by as a person earlier on in the game, would have been it would have been a wonderful experience. But I mean, obviously, with the places you've been, you could. It's now that you've put all those pieces of that puzzle together, particularly for people like myself, you actually go back and go, well, shit, this bloke actually knows not just the game, but he actually knows, that journey to, I suppose, coaching, from playing to coaching to clubland, then to be an administrator in the game, mate. I'm sitting back in awe of you, to be totally honest. I'm just thinking, shit, you've done a fair more than I probably even envisaged. But I could see why at the moment, mate, you hold such a prestigious position in this competition as president. Because when I'm going to hand it to Leslie in a minute, but I'm going to be interested to hear your journey in the NRRRL as well. So hand it over to Les, mate.
Yeah, so being the president of the NRRRL is such a big job in what you do. How long have you been at the helm now? And what have been some of the challenges and some of the good rewarding points being involved on the board as the president?
Interesting. After I finished up as treasurer of Group 18 Junior League, I decided I needed a break for the admin role. So I did promised myself and my wife that I would take a break, but then we went down to Glenelg for a holiday, for an anniversary, and doing what you do on holidays, you sit in the pub and just go bang bang. Ghosty from Coogin actually rang me up at a weak moment, said we need a team manager for our first grade side. And I looked at my wife, looked back at the phone and went, I can do that. So the time it was over. So I started at Coogin, that was probably 18, I think, 2018, back when Pat Rosser was coaching.
Yeah, I was going to say, Pat would have been coaching then.
Yeah. O'Grady was still playing okay at that stage, I'll say that. And then I ended up on the Coogin committee again as treasurer / secretary / compliance. The club at the time was sitting underneath the Leeds Club, and that wasn't the right thing to do, being unincorporated and such. So anyway, that's another story. But I sort of put all that together, and bloody Tanya Booth said, we could do with someone like you on our board. And I went, no, not for me. I'm over it. I just want to do what I do, go home Sundays with no responsibility, except do the stats for Pat.
I was going to say.
Yeah. But I think that probably lasted 3 conversations, and I was on the board of the NRRRL for 18-19, and Robin Harley stood down in 2020 at the end of the 19 AGM, and I was voted in by the clubs and the fellow board members, and which is a fairly big pat in the back.
Yeah, it is, mate.
To be honest, yeah. Having someone new to take on the role, yeah.
Mate, it is. I was just actually going to say, no disrespect to, people that have been on the NRRRL board and particularly since the merger between Group 18 and Group 1, the NRRRL board being such a new competition, a mix of 2 boards initially, and then to get to the point where they are now, where obviously it's not the mix of 2 groups. It's now seen as a standalone competition, being the NRRRL, and again I'm going to say it again, being one of the best competitions in New South Wales country, mate. To come in that position with those guys, that you've mentioned, obviously Tanya was on that board as well before she took up her position with New South Wales Rugby League, and we'll get to that, in a minute. But, mate, being the president, as Les has asked, you know, like being that president of this competition when you came in, so it was about, what,
2020.
2020. So it's been 3 years. Obviously, like anyone that's coming into a new position, you'd hope that you could come into a new position such as a president of NRRRL and everything's stepped out for you and it's an easy in and, you know, you get on your way. When you came in, what was it? What was that initial thought process for you, mate?
Yeah, initially, as a board, we sat down and sort of looked at revise the strategic plan and have a look at where we could take the league itself, what we needed to, you know, get better at, improve on, continue to do good, better otherwise. And then a funny thing happened called COVID.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, bang, oh, what have I got myself into?
What a time to be president of a competition. Good old COVID.
Everything just got thrown out the window, you know, and all of a sudden you've got these massive challenges to face with. But I suppose at my level, at then I was dealing with both Country Rugby League and New South Wales Rugby League.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a transition period at the same time.
That's the transition period, yeah.
Jeez.
I was looking after rep football still with the Johns and Daly stuff, and that made things hard as well with travel requirements. And yeah, COVID was a massive headache, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it.
It's funny you say that, Harrow, because just being the president at those, you know, coming in at the time, funnily enough, when that wonderful thing came about, you've gone from being focused on managing and controlling a competition to all of a sudden becoming a health expert as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the entire country was shutting down.
Yeah.
And I remember people, you guys probably do too, people keep saying community sport's going to die. No one's going to walk out their door. They're all too scared. And I'm just going, well, can I say the word bullshit?
Yeah, you can say it, mate. It's that type of podcast. We've heard worse, and we've said worse. But anyway, continue on. You're right. You're all good, mate.
Joey. Brain snap, which ended up being probably the best decision she's made in that year.
Yeah.
So Tanya and I ran with it, and we had to do a lot of talking to convince the clubs it was the right thing to do. But what helped us at the time, I suppose, Queenslanders, when they shut the bloody border down.
Yeah.
That split clubs, it split competitions. We lost, you know, the likes of Byron, Kyogle, Evans, because of it. So that was a massive challenge. It really was.
Yeah.
We had a lot of doubters. I remember some of the Facebook feeds, or sookbook feeds, as I call it.
Yeah.
It's never going to work. You're doing the wrong thing. Shut it down. All this kind of garbage.
I can remember you guys were copping. Yeah. You guys were absolutely copping a sledging because at that stage, Harrow, I'm going to give you guys a credit because you guys are the only competition up and running in the whole state.
We were, yeah.
In the state. Well, that's a massive, like, that's huge.
Yeah.
So one rugby league competition in the whole of the state, being New South Wales, and I'm not quite sure about the Queensland situation, but, mate, that's a massive achievement in itself.
Well, the Gold Coast was shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the end of that year. I remember it was one of the semi-finals at Ballina. We had the radio show turn up.
Yep. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. Dave Tron from New South Wales and asked me to do a bit of a spiel on that. That was what was all focused on, you know, why were we the only ones there. But it worked.
Yeah.
It was funny. I remember all the TV interviews I used to do, and they were an absolute pain trying to meet NBN places with all the different lockdowns and everything.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was going back and forth across the border with work and selling the house and home environment and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I remember one interview we talked about the green and gold and the way the semi-finals were going to be put on that year. And in the interview, I remember saying, we're not going to have finals like we've used to.
Yep.
There's going to be 2 sets of finals. There's going to be different rules. All that went on TV was me saying there's only no finals.
That's the way the media portrays things. Luckily, we're not like that. Everything you say is going to be aired. So.
Yeah. And so that was okay. And then obviously with 21, we had to put up with the same garbage again with COVID. But this time New South Wales Health did shut us down. And again, I remember I was on phone calls with Trotto. I was on phone calls with Kevin Hill, Wade Kelly, everyone I could probably think to talk to, just try and keep our competition going. And in the end, they said, no, shut it down, you're all over, see you next year. So that was a bit disappointing given, I suppose, the position we were in. Like you guys said just then, that we're the only competition going in 2020.
Yep.
And then we regathered, the clubs are all keen to get back on, Byron Bay come back, Kyle will come back, Evans Head come back. Then it rained.
Yeah. It didn't rain, it poured.
It rained and it rained and it rained.
It did, mate.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's all negative, but it was challenges for the first 3 years.
Just hearing that, just hearing you play that out, I think as people that are also involved in the game, those last 3 years for this whole region, managing the COVID response that you've done, getting teams to participate in the game, even against all odds, you then get a thing happen that's a natural disaster, and you still persevered and come out the other end of it, mate, and you've still got a competition played that year. I know teams are still struggling. The support that the NRRRL was having to the clubs particularly, and mate, credit to you. I don't think any other competition, and again, I'm not blowing trumpets here, but I don't think any other competition could have managed those. They're high level things outside of the game that you've had to manoeuvre for 3 years. So, mate, well, credit to yourself and as a president, and credit to the board, mate, because I don't think clubs, players and supporters really appreciate what happens in the back rooms to get this competition to where it is over those really difficult times, but more importantly, to get a competition in 2023 that's, I think, one of the highest standard competitions in the country, in New South Wales country. And I know Les laughs at me every time I bloody say it, but backs to the wall stuff, and mate, you're coming out and producing such a great competition this year, mate. I credit you. I think people need to take their hats off to people behind the scenes and say thanks a lot, mate, because it's working.
It's flying, isn't it?
It's flying, mate.
From 18s to women's tackle, ladies league tag
result. And we copped a fair bit of criticism too, I think, last year with the split semi-final series we had. Top 6 and the rest type thing.
I'll put my hand up.
But
it worked.
You can't fit any more knives in my back, to be honest, so I don't really care. Because sometimes you make the wrong decision, sometimes you make the right one. Was it the right thing to do then? Oh, I believe it was. I really believe it was. Because it gave clubs more opportunity to get money through the gate and keep continuing to build for 2023. Was the final series the right way to put it together? Well, maybe it wasn't. But we've learned from it. And
100%.
We'll never bloody go back.
Actually,
we can actually
at the start, you and I were like,
I'll tell you what.
Why are they doing this?
The reason I put my hand up, because me and Les last year were just going, what's Arrow doing? Like, well, is he serious? Like, and then obviously you get the players going, but what are we playing for? And I'm like, mate, I'll tell you, me and Les come up with some of the best scenarios in the world just to make sure the blokes turn up for training every week and turn up and play. But you know what? They did. And
looking back at that now, like look at those teams that were playing in those final series. Some of them are thriving now. Like you got Northern and Mullumbimby and Lower Clarence up there mixing it with those. Mate,
I think, and Les is 100% of the money. Like even the Mullumbimbies and whatnot. Mate, we were all playing in that second tier final series last year, and all of a sudden, that gave us the boost we needed to improve. We've learned a hell of a lot from those clubs above us that had done really well. No disrespect to them, mate. I think they've led the way really well, and I think we've just learnt from that and sort of worked out how to try and be better. And I think as much as you cop the knock for it, and as again, I'm putting my hand up, not backwards and coming forward, I was like really sceptical, but it wasn't until about 3 weeks ago I actually said to Les, I said, Foxy, guess what? I said, you know how I bagged Harrow and the NRRRL about that competition last year? I said, I think it worked for us. So mate, I'm the first one to put me hand on my heart and say, mate, I'm not going to apologise. I'm just going to say you proved me wrong. Well done. You know, I think it's proven good in that respect that the other clubs in the lower end of that competition are really thriving.
Little things, like Les just said, you know, look at what's happened to lower.
Yeah.
It's keeping blokes on the paddock for an extra 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, mate. You know, and look at where they're at now. We rave about where Lower's at this season, mate. I think they're doing great things down there. I think if they can continue what they're doing down at Lower Clarence, it won't be too long before you actually see some. And when Lower's going well, the competition's going well, I reckon. So they're doing a great job, mate. And you know, going back to yourself, mate, what was it like? Obviously, you've talked about that really difficult phase, but on top of that, you've had to do a transition period between Country Rugby League and New South Wales. What's that been like?
Yeah, it was interesting. Probably a little bit personal for me as well, because I was very heavily involved with the 20 years I had in the junior ranks. I did a lot of rep football. I went to Sydney a lot. I sat on in junior representative councils and all this type of thing. Did a fair bit, and I really got to know the late great Terry Quinn. Again, the late Jock Colley, Jock Anderson, Bert Lowry, Kevin Hill, Graham Boland.
Yeah.
Bolo's moving back to town, by the way.
Jeez, mate.
I
hope he's got the same phone number. He was one of my go-to men back in the old Country Rugby League days. I'd ring him about everything.
Phone number hasn't changed.
That's good. Look out, Bolo, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. So it was pretty tough because I saw all these, and the girls in the office too, the admin girls. They were fantastic to deal with, and to see them walk away from the game.
Yeah.
Well, no, walk away from Country Rugby League, not the game. They're still involved in the game, which is fantastic to see. So that was tough. I knew it had to happen. Both businesses were getting very, very big, and the game was growing. The business was growing. There was really no choice. And then this big bad person stood over the top of us called Peter V'landys and said, "This is what you will be doing." I'm just going, "Yes, sir. You want the money, you've got to do it this way." So
the only thing V'landys didn't do for me was give me those tips for the bloody big races. But anyway.
Yeah. So it was a pretty tough time, but at the same time, it was probably exciting to see where the game was going to go and how it was going to grow, given New South Wales was so entrenched with the metropolitan side of things. Yeah. I still don't believe, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying it, but anyway, I still don't believe they understand in full what rugby league in the bush is about. Hand on heart. It's more than just a game to us.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You're 100% on the money, mate, and particularly in this competition.
Yeah.
You've hit the nail on the head. I think, Country Rugby League, and I think when you look back in the history, it's going to tell its story anyway, because I know at that top end now we see it a little bit different with, the leeches that come into Country Rugby League and take our kids out at 15 years of age and present them with this wonderful big, story of you're going to be an NRL star, and we all know the percentages of what kids actually go on and make it. But we don't have, I look back at it now, yes, V'landys is coming and doing what he's doing, and you've had the ARL days, and then you've had the Super League and whatever wars. When you look back in the history of this game, you can definitely hold your hand up and say, well, Country Rugby League, particularly, has had a hell of a lot to do with where these other mainstream and top-level competitions are at.
Yeah, sure.
particularly from a player-based point of view. You know, like not everyone lives in those metropolitan areas. I mean, obviously they're growing the game in Queensland, which is great. You know, we've got my wonderful team up there now, the Dolphins. Les gives me the ugh. But anyway, you know, but in New South Wales Rugby League, mate, I think credit goes to where credit needs to be given, and Country Rugby League needs to be credited with everything they've done to get this game where it is.
Yeah.
You know, and it's without a doubt. You hit the nail on the head, mate.
Yeah. But there's still a fair bit happening too within New South Wales Rugby League, and just another job that I've got. There used to be, I used to call it, the name's just evading me in a minute, but it used to be New South Wales, there was a separate board, Junior League Association, which was basically for metropolitan clubs back in the old New South Wales days. Yeah. And in Metro, I don't know whether you're aware, but Metro clubs are under sixes through to first grade.
Yes.
Here in the bush, we're sixes to 16.
Yes.
In some places 17. And then those clubs were used to be members of the Junior Rugby League CRL.
Yep.
And us as the NRRRL and the senior clubs are now members of New South Wales Rugby League. Yeah. The Group 8 and Group 1 in our local backyard, they're not members of anyone.
Oh, jeez.
It's scary, isn't it?
So who do they affiliate with?
The NRRRL.
So they don't affiliate up to New South Wales Rugby League?
No.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Mate, you've enlightened me tonight. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, we saw that, and now the Junior League Association is expanded into Community Rugby Leagues Association.
Oh, okay.
So they've got 3 people representing country on one of those, and 3 people representing metropolitan plus an independent. So we are now out there seeking membership at a junior-based level, and I'm trying to see how we can tie in senior clubs into that membership as well. So now Group 8 and Group 1 are members of New South Wales Rugby League Association. So they've now got a say again.
Okay.
Which is fantastic.
Well, mate, I'll tell you what, if you've had anything to do with the fight for that to happen, mate, again, well done. Hats off to you, mate, because I think that's what needs to happen. Just going on, mate, obviously, with everything you've talked about, floods, COVID and all the other bits and pieces, you know, as I said, mate, full credit to yourself as the president of the group, and also to your board. Mate, the referees, you know, for the standard, they're growing as well. I had a bit of a chat with Peter O'Connor the other week, and he's telling me, and also Paulie Ladder on the weekend, and their numbers are growing, which is absolutely, you know, unbelievable. I think we need that to happen to make the game better. Mate, all that being said, 2023, mate, how do you see this? How do you see the competition to this point? With just over the halfway period, where do you see the NRRRL competition right now?
Still pretty open, isn't it?
It is, mate.
Yeah.
It is very open.
There was a couple of results I didn't think would go as they did over the weekend, especially Lower Coogin. I thought Lower might have gone over the top of Coogin.
Yeah, mate, I was with you on that.
Yeah, but they'll bounce back for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So at the moment, you look at I haven't seen the table today since Tanya's done the results, but I'd imagine Balliner's Balliner. They're certainly the leaders of the pack, and that's where everyone aspires to be, I suppose. And then you've got.
We'll talk about that game. Well, actually, before we round up, we're going to talk to you about one game particularly, which is the Ballamble Ballina game. But anyway,
I can't wait.
So we can't either.
You've got Northern. You've got Coogin creeping up the table. You've got
Coast.
Evans Head is still there.
Yep. I
know Evans Head is going through a different patch at the moment, but the way they played yesterday was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Seen different side to what I saw play against Ballamble, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a very, very close contest at the end in first grade. It's great to see all but 2 under-18 sides there.
Oh, mate, whatever's happened in that space and whatever work's been put in from the NRRRL and the clubs as well, obviously need the bigger credit. But, mate, you know what's a pleasure for me is I go to every game now and I turn up way before the 18 start, purely for 2 reasons. One is I love the growth of the women's tackle game. I'm so big on that one. But, mate, under 18s, they're back. But we're not just talking about scrappy numbers or turning up and maybe having 11 players and play. Mate, these kids the talent is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And whatever's happening in that space, please just keep it going, because that's going to be the fruits of the senior competition in years to come, I think.
100%. Yeah. And what's also good too, Chris, is last year's under 18s, the amount of them that are probably not even 19 yet that are making their first grade debut.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a huge for our club.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, right.
It's been great. I follow a few clubs on social media, and the number of young kids in under 18s that are making their first grade debuts this year is unbelievable. I've seen a young kid with Tweed Seagulls make his debut with Evans on the weekend, which is good.
Two young kids make their debuts for Evans Head.
The winger scored 2 tries.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
I can't think of his name. Not Malachi.
I think you're right. I actually think one of the kids' names is Malachi. Oh, God. Name forgets as well. But, I mean, you're right. I mean, 2 young kids from Tweed Seagulls making their debut. You know, massive, huge. So, and that's proof, as I said, in the competition. And mate, you can always look back to clubs, and it's like anything, whether it's football life, whether it's work life, mate. The bottom end of you is ever as good as what your top end is. So, you know, you got to have good people in your administration at the top end of the competition, like yourself, and you know the board, the guys you've got around you on your board, obviously support you really well. That in itself speaks a lot for where the competition's at, and I totally agree, mate. I think it's very open at the moment in that top 6 to 8. I think you're going to see some shifting and moving over the next few weeks. And I think by, you know, realistically, it's going to go right down to round 14 or 15 before you actually get to cement this top 6. So, you know, that's good, and that's why I think it's the best competition in New South Wales country. You know, it speaks for itself, mate. It speaks for the volumes of what you guys do. But Les has got a very interesting question now that you've raised the issue of finals footy.
Yes, so we're at the halfway point. So we've spoken about that. We're getting to the back end of the season now. So what is the format for this year's final series, and how do you see the series playing out?
Well, at the end of round 6 now, we're going to split the comp into 2, and we'll have North and... No, not just joking.
Oh, God. Mate, I'm sitting here with my heart palpitating going, when did that happen? There was a meeting last week and no one told me anything. But anyway, mate, keep going. Don't do that to me, Harrow. This bloke does that all the time to me. Trust me. Oh, God. You sent me into palpitations, seriously.
We've got a top 6 over 4 weeks. And this was spoken about at Clubland for a couple of weeks of meetings and everything before we finally come up with it. So top 6 over 4 weeks. Week 1 will be Saturday, Sunday. 3 will play 6, loser's gone. 4 will play 5, the loser's gone. Now it's important that weekend especially, we don't know what game is going to be played Saturday as yet, because there's a likely clash with Group 1 and Group 18 Junior League semi-finals. That's the last thing we want to do is interfere with them.
Yep.
Saturday's their game, not ours. We're Sunday, preferably. So we'll just have to wait and see who's going to play Saturday, Sunday. Week 2, we'll have the winner of 3v6. We'll play the winner of 4v5, and that'll be hosted by the highest ranked winner.
Okay.
Again, that's going to be a Saturday, because on the Sunday, 1 will play 2.
Okay.
Which is where the match of the round, obviously.
Yep. Sounds
so
good.
That the loser of the Saturday game again bows out, and the winner will play the loser of 1v2.
Mate, this is...
So the winner of 1v2 straight to the GF?
Yep.
And hosting.
Mate, you know what? Just hearing the way that I think it's great. I actually make credit to us for coming up with that system for the final series. But you know what it does? And it's probably... I haven't seen it before, but... So, for me, I can't wait for the weekend's game. Obviously, there's a couple of crunch games. Bilambil, Ballina, Coogin, Northern could those top three could sort themselves out a little bit in this one.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It'd be interesting. Oh, mate, well that's good to hear. I mean, I think for me, supporters out in clubland and the people out there in the players, that's the first time they've probably heard of that. Of course, we do know that sometimes, as much as this gets out into clubland, and we have the expectation that people within the clubs bring that back to the playing group. Sometimes they don't want to get caught up into that final series, but I just think it's good to know for supporters more than anything, so that they can get themselves ready for that progression of finals footy in the NRRRL, because I just think it's going to be one hell of a final series this year. I just think it's going to be hotly contested. It's going to be great games every round, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. I just think you've come up with a great structure, mate. So well done again. Hats off, mate. If I keep taking my hats off, I'm going to be bald at the end of this. But anyway, so well done in that space. So I think the last question I have of yourself, mate, obviously from what's the NRRRL, finally the board, you as the president, and I think this is not just me as a coach or me as a person doing a podcast or whatever, but I think just generally in the rugby league population here in the Northern Rivers, which is massive. I don't think people realise how big the rugby league is in this area, but what's the vision? What we all want to know what's the vision for the NRRRL for now, beyond 2023. Is there going to be growth? What's the women's game going to look like? How's that going to evolve? So I'd like to finish on a question that just says, give it the person at the top of the tree. What's the vision for the competition moving forward?
Well, first of all, we still need to grow. There's still plenty of growth to happen, both in the male game and the women's game. Yep. What we've decided at board level, which came out at the last meeting, was at the end of probably February next year, before we start the season, we'll have a bit of a think tank / conference type day, just to talk about different things to do on the field, off the field, mainly off the field, and try to put together a strategic bit of a plan that the clubs want on how we can move forward. But I suppose that what's in this little noggin of mine at the moment around growth, and again, we're all mates, I'll say what I want to say. I'll get a few knives in it, but, what about Seagulls? Do they come back?
Good question.
Expansion,
mate. Between you and me, I like the idea. I just think it's another challenge, for clubs in clubland. I know it's been thrown out there a bit about that, and I like it. I mean, I'm a supporter of it. I mean, the other question that I have of you, particularly we're talking about growth, and it's another thing that's come up over the last few years. It's the Grafton boys.
Yeah. You guys mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. I mean, because we've got the girls over here playing in our competition now. Yeah. I don't know if it's a mix of the Grafton Ghost and Grafton and the Rebels, but there's a Grafton team in the women's comp. And I know that there's been a lot of talk down the Clarence, and I'm not New South Wales Rugby League, but I know that there's a lot of talk about those guys wanting to come back to the NRRRL. And there's been talk at Clubland when meetings happen and occur. So, if you're going to talk Seagulls, and I mean, obviously there's a lot on the table. But I think that think tank idea is great. I think it's. Yeah. Can I ask who's providing the food on that day?
Yeah, we will.
Oh, thank you, mate. I'm definitely going to come. Not for the rugby league.
Yeah, right.
And the food.
Yeah.
Probably another.
But yeah, Grafton. Interesting. It really is interesting. To be honest, guys, I'd have it back tomorrow. I really would. Yeah. To increase our comp to 16 clubs, massive.
Huge.
But how influential, there you go, would we be in New South Wales Rugby League then? But there's a few things to consider, I think. Unfortunately, politics plays a big game. I hate it. I keep saying I should move to Canberra because there's less politics in there than what there's in Rugby League.
Not if you're in the Liberal Party.
Hey?
Not if you're in the Liberal Party.
Yeah, very true. But, they've got... The hierarchy needs to make this decision, not us. Yeah. Obviously, we'd welcome them back. I don't know how the clubs would feel about it. For some reason, they've still got a bee in their bonnet about how long a drive it is. But it's 2 hours. Yeah. Imagine the bus trip coming home with no corners.
Mate.
Oh. Good bus trips. I love them.
I love them bus trips. Mate, I before I returned back home here 3 years ago, it's funny you talk about travel, and I know we always get the guys from the tweet saying, 2 hours down the road to Grafton. It used to be 3 or just over. Yeah. We've got a wonderful thing called the Grey Snake that goes all the way down there now, and it is no more than 2 hours. It's definitely no more than 2 hours.
That's right. Yeah.
Mate, going back to the early discussion out west, mate, those areas at Walker and whatever. Ooh. Mate, I was coaching footy in Moree, mate, and I was travelling to Armidale. We were 3.5 hours. That's to get there to play a game. That's in 4 grades, then packing up and coming back home. But I'll tell you what, if there's one thing I do remember about those trips, I always made sure I was on the bus. They were great trips back home. You get back to your town at some ungodly hour. Yeah. But in this competition, 2 hours, it's not a big ask anymore. Mate, Canberra get on a bus now. The Raiders get on a bus and drive from Canberra to Sydney.
Canberra to Sydney.
So. There's a lot in that, and I think it helps for club culture and team bonding and all that sort of stuff.
It does. There's still a lot of things to consider. Where does that put lower? Obviously, the PPIS comes into play big time.
I love the PPIS.
Swapping clubs, Swapping clubs internally is going to make a big difference. Group 2 have got their own problems. I'll leave that as it is. Apparently, Bello forfeited in all 4 grades last weekend.
That's not a good thing.
It's not. Do they look at North Coast Rugby League? We look at the revamp the whole East Coast. There's a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, there is.
But expansion, yes, it's certainly on my radar.
That's great to hear. I'm all for it. I think expansion's great. If it's done the right way, it could really make a difference in the whole of the NRRRL, I think.
Yeah.
And Seagulls, mate. I mean, you think about it, you're looking about, when it did merge Group 18, Group 1, Seagulls were actually part of Group 18 at the time.
They were.
There's another club that doesn't play anymore up there in the competition, which is South Tweed.
South Tweed.
And I know they've got a massive junior base and got a wonderful, venue up there. But, who's to say that one day that, they don't even consider that once that sort of stuff looks at when you're looking at expansion. That's why that's why, mate, I think you're Andrew Abdo. You're out there making things happen.
Well, we've already started talks with Seagulls.
That's great.
And it's Tweed Seagulls Junior Rugby League that we're talking to.
Yep. Because they're 2 different entities.
Sorry?
I said because they're 2 different. The Queensland Cup and the Tweed Seagulls, they're 2 different
junior
entities.
league that want to do this.
Yep.
Brendan Lindsay from Tweed Seagulls, the CEO, he's right behind them. He's going to help them out wherever he can. Yep. There'll be massive restrictions.
Yep.
I'll say that now. Massive restrictions on who can play for Seagulls.
Yep.
You can't just go and, Rossi can't go and play at Seagulls on Saturday, get dropped next weekend and go and play at Seagulls. He's going back to Raiders.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's good to hear that.
That type of thing will be in place, otherwise they're not coming down full stop. No. But I think that the biggest thing for the Tweed clubs, or our competition really, is that it's going to spread the talent.
Of course it does, mate.
Yes. And some of these reserve graders that walk away from the game, and that's part of my growth I want to talk to you about too. The reserve graders at 19, 20 that are walking away have now got another club to go and play for. Yeah, especially those kids in South Tweed.
Yeah.
Those kids coming through from Seagulls 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Expansion, on that note, it's always been a problem. You guys have seen it in your days as well. The transition between 16 to 18 has always been tough.
It's huge, mate. It's huge.
It's massive. So, do we leave the 18s back with the juniors for another year or 2 years, really?
Yep.
And then do we look at possibility of having a 21 or a 23-year-old competition? Mm-hmm. The numbers are scary. I did it last year and presented it to the clubs. The amount of players at 19 to 22 are leaving the game are more than the 17-year-olds.
And it is a big transition, Harry. You hit the nail on the head, mate, between, that first grade competition and, 18s to transition up. And yes, we've had a number of kids debut, and that's great. And I think that's good for the growth of the game. But at the end of the day, too, you've got to be realistic about those kids that can transition. I mean,
that's right.
Most coaches, and I'd say most coaches in every club, would make sure that they do their due diligence and look at whether those kids have the physical capabilities combined with the required athlete, required developmental stages to be able to do that as well.
100%. Yeah. As for the girls, well, I think it's about time we need to draw a line in the sand and go bang from this date forward.
Yeah. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, I knew I was going to get that.
Thumbs up.
But we're conscious. I'm conscious.
Yeah.
The board's conscious. The clubs are also conscious. At the moment, we're looking at. I think tag we've got about 225 participants.
Yep.
Tackle we've got about 110, which includes the Grafton girls.
Yep.
So we've got to look at what's the best for our majority of participants first.
Yep.
I can see league tag becoming a social competition. I can, but I think for the NRRRL to make tackle a success, we need to play it Sundays.
Yep.
Maybe that's from 2025.
Yep.
Even this week, we've lost 2 girls to the Holcim Cup playing at Corumba.
Yep.
Because that competition is better.
Yeah, we've lost. Well, it's going to be 3 next week because we've lost 1 going up there as well.
Who was that?
Young Jemini.
I've heard Cleveland Jemini.
Yeah. So,
we're still trying to talk to her.
We've lost 2. Young Jada as well. So.
Jada, yeah.
Which is, and again, I mean,
they can go up and play on the permit if they need to.
Yep.
Which means if they're not clicked this week, they can't play our tackle, their tackle the same weekend.
Yep.
But if they're not picked to play this Saturday, they can play for Northern Sunday.
Similar to the situation you've got with Tweed Seagulls at the moment with dual registration. No, and I think that's a good thing because that helps.
Yeah.
Well, the young girl that doesn't have to sit out a whole game of tackle, she can transition back to a local club.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's a good idea.
So we've got to remain active in that space and keep growing the game. So we need, I think you guys said it last week before, we need the clubs to get behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, I'm just going to be shooting the mouth off, dribbling again, as I do a lot of the times, mainly Friday nights.
Don't worry, mate. After tonight, you're going down as the man that invented the schooner. Yeah. But you just didn't put your name to it, Harrow. You should have put your name to it, mate. It's $10 a pop now at a pub.
I think, in all seriousness, too, what I want to try and get the clubs to improve on is their off-field governance. We've all seen it on the field. It's been fantastic.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of improvement since COVID.
Yep.
Off the field, we still need to do our homework.
No, definitely, mate. I totally massively supporter of that. Big supporter of that, mate.
I've heard you guys, and I'm happy to provide you guys with the team sheets from yesterday's games.
Yep.
But today I can't because they're not filling out the license.
Yeah. Mate, the minute we all go, one for a better term, live with an iPad rather than that. You have the paper as a backup, but where we can actually do that interactively. And I had a bit of a chat to Tony Maludi yesterday, and I think it's the way of the future. It's the way we've got to go. I know some people transition. The transition phase is hard, but I just think it's going to be great because it just means that you're actually live, you're active, you're in there. If a player's out for whatever reason, you transition another player in, it's 5 seconds on a computer. Bang, it's up. You're in, and that's a live field, and you guys will get those results direct rather than waiting on papers paperwork to come through.
And you can't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, back in round 5, we've had to make the decision to take 2 points off a particular team because they played unregistered player.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Massive, mate. Huge.
Do the live scoring, it wouldn't have happened.
Yep. Yeah, mate. I mean, I get that, and I think the way what you've just outlaid there for me shows me that you've definitely, a person in the position that you're in, and the board that you're working with are not just thinking about the here and now. You definitely got the fingers on the pulse of the way the competition is going right now, but more importantly, mate, the vision for the future. It really makes me excited about the best competition in New South Wales country, which is the NRRRL.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
So mate, again, mate, I think from our end we just want to say thanks. I think this has been great. I think, as I said, for you to. A lot of presidents would balk at the opportunity to come onto a thing like a podcast, for a whole range of different reasons. But, mate, for you to take that, one for a better term, risk to come onto a podcast like this to enlighten people in clubland, mate, the supporters that we've got that we know that, tap into this podcast now week in, week out to hear what's going on in our competition. Mate, from our end, me and the big Foxy, mate, this has been an absolute pleasure, mate, doing this podcast because I think we did it as a bit of a, I'm going to be straight up, we did it as a bit of a laugh and a joke at the start. But, mate, I'll tell you, this podcast, along with the way that you guys are on the competition, just goes to show the standard that the NRRRL was trying to set. Yeah. And I think I really do.
Where it's heading.
And where it's heading, mate. I really hope that New South Wales Rugby League, can see what you guys are doing as an administrative body, what people like me and Les are doing to try and grow the game with you guys. And we hope that the future between, you guys and our podcast will even grow bigger and better, mate. And down the track, once we both decide to step out of the rugby league coaching game and into the full-time media game, which isn't very far away, we can hopefully bring bigger and better things to the competition and help you guys as well. Yeah. So,
actually, speaking of that,
yep,
I'm still working on it at the moment, but I think it's round 8 of the girls' competition, the tackle.
Yep.
It'll be a Super Saturday at Tweed Coast Raiders, where Northern United will be playing on Sunday.
Mate.
So we'll have to try and organise that for you guys to do the live commentary for all 3 games.
Okay, listen, you had us at a low. But, mate, yeah, look, we'd love that opportunity. A Super Saturday, mate. We would love to be the guys on the mics for the Super Saturday women's round of the NRRRL, mate. So lock us in, mate.
I'll get behind and organise it.
Yeah, mate, that'd be great. I think... Yep. We'll bring it to the audience, and I'll guarantee it'll be probably one of the most watched events around the whole of the Northern Rivers, if not the state. So
I'll do it as long as you can answer this question, Chris.
Yeah.
What's the maximum amount of players you can have on the bench in A grade?
7, 8.
On the bench?
On the bench, 4.
Oh, so you can't have 8 anymore?
You never could.
You did a couple of times last year.
Yeah, I know, but
you tried it.
No. Listen, you know what I'm like, Harold. If you don't try, you don't know.
He likes to bend the rules.
Hey, but listen, you know how this is the NRRRL era? I'll tell you something. You know why I pushed it? Because in the NRRRL, you're allowed to have an 18th man. But listen, if it did work, I'd probably be innovative. There's another word.
Well, I'm there, mate.
No, it's all good, mate. If you have a look at the game sheets between round 1 to now, you'd actually find that the Northern game sheet is actually 17 every week.
Of course it is.
Thanks for that, Harrow, because I think it really helped me. Nah, it's been good, mate. And again, I just want to credit you, mate. As I said, it's been a great, chat to you tonight. It's been, you guys are doing a wonderful job.
Just quickly before you go, Harrow.
Yep.
Belamble Ballina, how do you see
Yes,
that one?
please.
Oh, man.
Are you going to that game, Harrow?
I certainly am.
Mate,
What are you thinking?
tell us. What's your take on the game, mate?
I think Belamble, again, we're really looking forward to the game. They've got a massive pack of forwards. I don't think James will be back with his knee. He hurt his knee in the first game he came back. But Jacob Hine.
He's in end.
He's a massive unit. I'm sure he's back. Well, he's back in town.
Okay.
I'm sure he got injured a couple of weeks back, I think. And, they played Caserta. It would have been a hard game regardless of the result. They still played footy. But Ballina had the week off.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, mate.
With the long
Long
weekend.
They had a long weekend, of course. Yeah. Of course.
They haven't played for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that going to go against them, the fact they haven't played for 2 weeks? Or is it going to be, is it going to assist them because they've got over their niggling injuries?
Yeah, you're right.
Jess Perry's at his absolute best this year.
Well, he announced it on the podcast. It's his last year. So
it's his last year, mate. Every week's going to be a big week for Jess Perry, trust me.
Yeah. And he's going to be a fantastic coach too, by the way. I've worked with him in the Titans junior program.
I've got big raps on Jesse Perry as a coach.
Oh, yeah.
I just think he's going to be a breath of fresh air in the competition as a coach.
Yeah. And Barnes is doing a fine job too.
He's old.
Barnes in the rep level as well.
He's like me. We're old, mate. Hey, Barnesy.
You're not going to give us a tip?
Pick that phone up, Barnesy.
I'm going to go Ballina.
Yeah.
You going Ballina?
Yeah.
Les?
I'm going Ballina by 14.
I'm gonna be the odd one amongst the three of us, guys. I'm actually going Belamble, and close game, mate. They're going to win by 4.
All right, there we go. Let's get down and see how that one goes.
Yeah, and then you're going to have a 3-way. I think Northern v Coogin this week.
Another big game.
I'm not saying that I'm not blowing a trumpet, but what I'm saying is that form speaks for itself. We're in some good form. I know Coogin are fighting for form, and it's going to be a tough game, close tussle in that game, Coogin and Northern. And if we get the bickies, mate, you've got a 3-way tussle at the top.
You have, yeah. And Connor Zero, mate, he's come back last week after his knee.
Yeah, mate, he did, and he actually went all right. Yeah, I watched the mini games. Les, just
hang on.
They cuts out when the tries for the Coogin game, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. Yeah, but I mean, mate, again, it's this weekend could be a bit of a telling tale. But the other thing, Harrow, before you go, it's interesting after the weekend's results, which we'll cover later. The big thing in that is that the top 3 teams have got a buffer of 6 points.
Yes.
Between 4th and 3rd.
Yeah.
So interesting. But we'll see how that plays out over the next.
And you guys have got the extra bye as well.
Yes, for once.
Oh, geez, I actually forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. I'll have a weekend off between our finals. Yeah. Hey, there you go.
At round 14, I think your bye is.
Okay, there you go. Well, I'll get Les as the stats man.
Yes, round 14.
Yep, 14. There you go. But mate, as I said, thank you, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And mate, we hope, but maybe we get you back in before the final series, mate. Just have a bit of chat and do a bit of a roundup around. We don't have to go through maybe what we did today. We can just talk about the final series and get some ideas from you, what you think about the teams that are playing. And we might even cover the other grades as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yep. Okay, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
All right.
Been an absolute pleasure, mate. Talk again.
Massive wrap to Lincoln on his.
Oh yeah, we're going to get that too, mate. We were keeping that in our whatevs phone.
In our round the ground.
Round the ground.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, mate.
Thanks again, guys. Loved it.
See you, mate. Good talking. See you, mate. Bye. There you go, guys. That's the NRRRL president, Mark Harrow Harrison.
How good was that?
That was you. I'm not going to say what you thought about the start of it because you were actually going, really, the president, mate. He's a great bloke. After hearing that, hearing his story, I think that's what we want to create here on the podcast. So we actually want to get the supporters, the clubland people. We want to get them in contact and get to know people in the game. You know, by the sounds of it, the last 8 weeks, surely by now people know us. So, you know, to get Harrow on, hopefully we get Tanya Booth in the coming weeks and talk about New South Wales Rugby League, and get her thoughts and beliefs on what they're doing in the game. So there it is. The challenge is out. Harrow's been up. Tanya, you're up next, and we'll see if we can get you in. But now, mate, we're going to get on with the rest of our podcast. We're going to be short and sharp here.
Yeah, we're
going to be short and sharp. But we're going to go straight to
Around the Ground.
There you go. Let's get it out there. Let's get it going.
I bet you do it that time.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. What are we doing, mate? What are we doing? Let's just quickly. We're just going to go through scores. Let's go.
We're just going to go through quickly. Coogin v Lower.
Coogin v Lower, mate. I think Harrow talked about it. I thought Lower was going to be in with a bit more of a show than what they did, but Coogin started well and finished well, mate, and they got a convincing win, 32-12.
32-12, and a big game there for the ref on the weekend, Lincoln
mate,
Close.
We had Lincoln Close, young up-and-coming referee, made his first grade debut down at Lowerland.
Yep.
And, mate, to be totally honest, I watched that game, the mini. He actually did quite well. Yeah. He had I think he's... Mate, he's a good kid.
He's a really good ref.
Yeah, mate.
I thought it was actually going to come a bit sooner, but he's got there.
He's got there, mate.
Hopefully, Lincoln, well done.
Get a few more, mate. Based on that game, mate, you'll get a few more.
Yeah, congrats.
Well done, mate, and congrats.
Byron v Mullum. Tough game, this one, mate.
Absolute bludger.
2 points in it.
Bludger.
It was a bludger, but 2 points in it.
2 points in it, mate. 26-24. Mate, credit to Mullumbimby. They were in it. Mate, I actually thought that 1 point in that game they were going to get it. But, mate, I just think Byron bounce back week. Yeah. After the long weekend, they had a game against...
Carney's still in the 9.
Yeah, I don't like that.
He's not listening to us.
No, Sammy, mate, find a 9. Mate, who's your best 6? But anyway.
Okay. Evans v Marist.
Mate, I know everyone had the perception of this game based on what Marist did against Coogin. Coogin probably looked at that and were disappointed and actually went out and done what they needed to do to get the win on the weekend. But, mate, poor game. Brothers were terrible.
Yeah, brothers were terrible. In saying that, Evans were good.
Mate, you know what? The Kennedy boys, Aiden scored 3 tries.
They stepped up, didn't they? 4 tries.
Yeah, 4 tries. Well, there you go. Sorry, Aiden. Mate, if you're listening, I know you do listen to the podcast. But so 4 tries. Well done, Aiden.
Well done, Aiden.
Mate,
4 tries.
Great work. Good work to Evans Head. Wasn't a bounce back week. They're just continually rolling on.
Mate, no Trevor Bolt. Roy Bell in the 7.
Roy looked really good.
He
actually looked good at 7.
Roy,
yeah,
except for front row.
Yeah, I don't like him at 9.
I don't like him at 9. Too.
But anyway, well done to Evans Head. You're rolling on in the competition.
64-6.
64-6.
Mooloolaba v Kyogle, 52-0 to Mooloolaba.
Yeah, it's the win Mooloolaba needed. They needed a confidence boost, mate. They've had a tough few weeks. I'm just going to say it. You know, as good as that win was, they're not playing semis. Neither of those teams are playing semis this year.
And I don't think, going back to Mullumbimby, Byron, I don't think any of them are playing either, but
that's your call, mate.
Casino v Bilamble, 58-12. Bilamble got the chocolates there.
No, this is a tough year for Ryan. Mate, Ryan's he's doing it. He's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. He's trying to, as I said, I think many weeks ago, we know what it's like, mate. When you're trying to rebuild a club. Mate,
a couple of years.
And I've got a really, it's not a soft spot. I've got a lot of time for Casino. It's my junior club. I played a lot of footy over at Casino at a junior level and in their senior club. I think I played 4 or 5 years there in there as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, and they looked after me. So they'll get better, mate. They'll improve. Trust me. Casino never give up.
Yes, and Northern v Tweed Coast Raiders, 36-16 to Northern.
36-16, good game. I think it was a good first 40 minutes. I wasn't happy with the second 40. My boys know that I wasn't happy with the second 40.
I wasn't happy either.
Yeah, so we need to be better, and we've got a big week ahead of us. We've got Coogin this weekend to go into, so we have to be better than what we were.
And Ballina beat the bye.
Mate, they had the bye in the long weekend, as you said earlier. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to Bilamble this week. So let's go straight into this week's games. Round 10.
Round 10. And this isn't going to be a good game too. Coogin at home to the Northern United Dirrawongs.
Tight
game.
Yep. Tight game.
Coffee saying runaway.
Yep.
I'm saying tight game. I'm tipping Northern. They're going to be
both teams will be looking to go in with a good prep.
Yeah. Evans Head versus Lower Clarence on a Saturday down at.
Is it at Lower? It's at Evans.
At Evans.
Mate, I'm actually going to say this. As good as what Evans was on the weekend, I think they need to back up that performance, because I'll tell you right now, I know Duggo, and I know Lower. They've been going great in the competition this year, and I think they'll have a tough week this week at training, and I think they'll be more competitive, and I think they'll actually, to be honest, if things go their way, they get on a roll, they get momentum, anything's possible, mate. But Evans Head.
It'll be a really tight game.
It will be.
Evans Head might just get the win at home.
Yep, same here.
Tweed Coast versus Mullumbimby. I think Tweed Coast are going to be too good for Mullumbimby.
I'm tipping Mullum.
You're tipping Mullum.
Yep, I'm tipping Mullum.
Beautiful. Byron Bay v Kyogle.
Bludger.
Yeah.
Absolute.
I'm not going to deny that.
That's at Byron?
Yeah, it's at Byron.
That's at Byron. Look, I think Byron's got to win. Byron, I think, will win. Yep. But Byron, Sammy, great kid. Sam Saville, mate, good, and a good footy brain. Put a number 6 on Carney. Yes, seriously, you got to put a 6 on Carney.
Mooloolaba versus Casino.
Mate, I actually think this one's going to be close game. Yeah, where's it at?
It's at Mooloolaba.
Mate, did they play each other a few weeks back?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, look, I'm actually saying it's going to be. I think Mooloolaba will get the bickies. I think they're probably over you and me writing them off for their season off. But as much as that aside, not playing Sammys.
No. The game of the round, I think, with the Northern Coogin game, but the game of the round, Bilamble at home to Ballina.
We've spoken about it, yeah, mate. I'm not changing my tips. I think tight game. I think if Bilamble have all ins, this is going to go down to the wire, and I'm saying there's going to only be 4 points in it, yep. And my 4 points is going to be with Bilamble.
Okay.
Sorry, Bell.
And Marsh Brothers have the bye.
I reckon they'll win this week. I think that's good. That's actually going to be good for them, because the week after, we'll look at that when the week's coming ahead.
Yep.
So, so that's a round there. There you go. That would be
round 10.
That's round 10, and that would be around the grounds.
Done and dusted.
Done and dusted. There you go. Okay, mate. What are we into now?
We're into the whatevs.
Well, what's your whatevs, mate? You got any?
Mate, I don't have any whatevs this week. We haven't been to a game, or we went to the game at Northern on the weekend, so I can't really talk about the canteen again like I always.
No, exactly.
So I haven't got no canteen.
Well, we got a whatevs. Actually, you know what? We had a whatevs. We just had a whatevs.
Coogin, we're coming for your canteen this
Yeah, Coogin, trust me. Steak sandwich.
Don't forget,
healthy options for less. We will definitely make ourselves aware. We'll be there by 18s. So we'll be, fresh off the bus. We'll be, there, bells on, money in hand. Les's shout. There you go. He doesn't shout it.
We're not going to talk Origin tonight.
Yeah, no, we are. Now listen, I've got another whatevs. And Harrow, thank you. Thank you, mate. We've got the whatevs now, so we do know that the big Foxy and Gingy will be at the women's round. Super Saturday. Come up and say hello when we're down there in commentary. I hope Harrow organises Goffey to be our man on the sideline, because we'll need these wonderful get-ups to do that week, that Saturday. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. Did he say where it was at again?
Tweed.
South Tweed. So
coming for the canteen.
We're coming for the canteen, guys, and we'll check that out as well. Mate, outside of that, we are going to have a brief conversation.
This is how keen I am this week. I didn't even wear me blue.
So,
jumper.
mate, there's been a lot going on in a lot of talk. Yeah. It is Origin week. I know you're an avid Blues supporter.
Who tips Queensland?
I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't be saying I'm an avid New South Wales supporter if I was tipping Queensland. But anyway, mate, what are your thoughts on the game this week?
Mate, I just think Queensland's going to be too good.
Queensland too good?
Yeah.
At home?
At home.
Okay, so you're tipping Queensland?
Mate, my heart's always with the Blues, but I just...
Wow.
They're,
here we go. My heart that bleeds maroon.
I hope you prove me wrong.
My heart that bleeds maroon,
blinder,
mate.
But
and I think I say this to a lot of Parramatta supporters. New South Wales this weekend don't need Moses, mate. They need Jesus. So anyway,
you've got everything, don't you?
Oh, mate, I just look. I'm going to go out on a limb again, and I'm just going to say.
I hope they prove me wrong.
Well, they won't, but 24-10. 24-10 is my prediction. Queensland. It'll be a tough first half, but, mate, the second half, Queensland will go to a new level, and we'll put the cleaners through. No Latrell. He's out again.
No Nico Hines.
No Nico. Oh, mate, I was so disappointed Nico didn't get a crack, and Nico proved himself on the weekend, mate.
I can't understand why they just don't go, mate. You know, we had you in the first game, yeah. We didn't give you a good go. Here's the 7. Show us what you got.
Well, mate, he's put all of his faith in. I'm talking about Fittler. He's put all of his and his selector. God, Brandy, seriously, mate. At the end of this week, I'm going to make the boldest whatevs prediction. After this weekend, after Wednesday night, Brad Fittler will be gone, and so will his co-conspirator Brandy. Brandy will not be given another selection job for any club or New South Wales ever again, mainly due to the fact that they've picked way too many Penrith players in this team over the last 2 years, and more importantly, they don't show, I think, the level of commitment to players like Nico Hines, other players that they've dropped on the basis of one game. Tavita Pangai. Why bring Tavita Pangai Jr. in as the enforcer, and then tell him 2 weeks later that you're not in? Like, I mean, seriously. I mean, Queensland, mate, they would have probably kept that kid and said, mate, prove me wrong. It hasn't happened. That being said, it is an Origin. Anything can happen. Even though it won't.
Player of the series, of the whole series, I'm going with Ruben Cotter.
Yeah, mate, it's funny you say that. I see it a bit different. Yep. I think the player of the series... for me, coming out of this, I actually think Cameron Munster will walk away with it. But anyway, mate, you got to think about. Fair enough, he might have been a bit quiet, but in the second half, there was the camera, and then he produced that a week later for Melbourne. I think he's going to be the big turning point in this game this weekend, on Wednesday night. Sorry.
Go the Blues.
So there you go, mate. So that's our whatevs. So what have we got coming? What are we looking forward to in the weeks to come? We've got some big rounds ahead of us in the NRRRL.
We've got Super Saturday.
Super Saturday coming up for the women's round. So you'll see us all out there, all the viewers. Tune in. I think it'll be live on Bar TV. Harrow's going to try and work that out. But Harrow, when you're working it out, mate, we can't do that gig without our major man here, Mr. Golf. We need him there with all the get up that we've got now, and make
his card so we can go to the shop.
And his card because we need it for the canteen. That being said, mate, I just think what a great. I love that interview with Harrow. I think it was great. I think he was a great insight into the game. Bit of a visionary. His new nickname for those people, it isn't Harrow anymore. It's Abdo, not Harrow. So Mark Abdo. he's enlightened me in a lot of things in that little conversation we had, that little yarn we had. That being said, mate, that's it.
Another great week.
Another great week. Another great podcast. Moving straight on to next week's round and coming back with some really big results. So thank you to the viewers. Thank you to our podcast faithful. Get us out there, mate. The best podcasts in rugby league at the moment, which is the Gingy and Foxy NRRRL wrap. And that would be
another wrap.
There you go. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.